All right, we are live. Got a couple seconds here to kill before we get some people maybe coming in talking about the game. What a dub! What a dub! The Buckeyes. Well, what a dub in one sense, and then not a what a dub in another sense. Happy Halloween, everybody! It's gonna be Halloween here on the East Coast, Midwest, in about 37 minutes. And what a way to celebrate Halloween weekend with a nice OSU win over Penn State, 33-24. The Buckeyes keep themselves right in the thick of the conversation for the college football playoff and the Big Ten championship. Obviously, a loss in this game would have been very damaging towards the Buckeyes' future chances. So this is a huge win. So we'll get into what we saw in the game. Obviously, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. So we'll see what the chat's going to have to say about this game. But my first thoughts in this game, honestly, the test was there. Penn State, you saw, came into Columbus in the Scarlet out. They needed to prove a point after a terrible loss to Illinois in 9 overtimes. I agree, Roger. It was a great game. A lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun plays. Easily the most entertaining Buckeye game from start to finish this season. We'll hope to maybe see a couple more entertaining games in these last 4 games of the season. Buckeyes are now 7-1. But, Penn State came in to prove a point. They needed to play better. They needed to play well. Hello from Missouri. Oh, way to go. Where are you in Missouri, Roger? Hello, buddy. Welcome. I'm here in Columbus, about 20 minutes away from the Horseshoe. Saw that big win for the Buckeyes. But anyways, the biggest thing that I took away from this game, in my opinion, Penn State needed to come in here to prove a point. They needed to play better after an embarrassing loss to Illinois. I think Penn State proved a little bit of a point. They played a good game of football. They were able to tire out the OSU defense. They were able to drive the ball. Sean Clifford had a good game in the air, 361 yards on 52 passing attempts. He was slightly injured. Jahan Dotson was able to do whatever he wanted, and Penn State was able to gain a ton of yards on offense. You're in Springfield, Missouri. Way to go, Roger. That's awesome. Cool. But while Penn State was playing some good football, this game, to me, my biggest takeaway, the fact that the Buckeyes performed well in big moments. In a better way of saying that, Ohio State, in a tough game situation, were able to come up with the bigger plays. And these are the kind of games where it's not going to be a rout like you would expect from Ohio State against other Big Ten opponents. The Buckeyes need to show up and have the big game plays. They had those big game plays tonight. What plays am I talking about? Well, the big throw in the first half by C.J. Stroud to Chris Olave. Made the throw wide open. They needed that to start some momentum. How about Jerron Cage? People should be going to parties tonight on Ohio State's campus. People should go trick-or-treating on Sunday around the state dressed up as Jerron Cage for Halloween. That man, 305 pounds, with the fumble return touchdown in the first half. What a play that was for Cage. What a play that was for the OSU defense. The OSU defense gave up a ton of yards, but they came up with the massive plays. The fumble return touchdown, the big interception in the fourth quarter by Brown. Huge performance. Troy, man, I am a big lover of many things. I love cake. I love cookies. I love video games. I love life. There's nothing I love in life more than seeing a big 300-pound dude run the ball 50 yards for a freaking touchdown. That injected life into my veins, into my brain. It was amazing to see. But that's the thing. Not every game is going to be pretty. And this Penn State game, I think OSU fans, and maybe there was a potential misconception that this could have been a walkover because of how badly Penn State played last week against Illinois in the 9 overtime loss. But Penn State's a good football team. I think Penn State silenced a lot of critics tonight. I think Penn State, even with a loss, has an opportunity, I think, to stay in the top 25. They held their own against the Buckeyes. They put up a really good offensive performance. They held OSU's offense in the red zone really well. To be fair, Ohio State's offense didn't have the biggest of days. Trayveon Henderson got some garbage time rushing yards to get up to 152. Obviously had the big 68-yard run to set up his 1-yard touchdown run. The offense didn't have its biggest days. I think Penn State's defense came up with a really good performance, but you don't need to always win a game by 50 points to prove you're a good team. A game like this proves Ohio State's a good team. They showed good character. The defense showed that they can come up with those big plays. You need to have games like that where you don't just necessarily dominate every time. And you know that if you can't dominate every time, you got to come up with the big game plays. OSU had more of those clutch big game plays tonight than Penn State did. It did need to be a blowout. How the hell did Penn State lose to Illinois? They had to have been looking ahead of us. Dude, I went to Illinois. I don't know how any team I don't know how any team loses to Illinois football. And you want to talk about how stupidly stupid the Big Ten is? Illinois beat Penn State last week in 9 overtimes. They were hosting Rutgers and lost to Rutgers today. Iowa scored 7 points against Wisconsin. The conference doesn't make sense. College football doesn't make sense. The only thing that makes sense is the fact that Georgia is amazing and Ohio State's amazing. We all love Ohio State. Yeah, here come the Buckeyes, man. What's up, Sage? Many times we're in the red zone. Yeah, no. With the amount of times that OSU was in the red zone, if the offense was executing on their red zone drives, they really should have won the game by like 30. So at the very least, the offense was still accumulating yards. It was not the most phenomenal game from CJ Stroud. But again, in the moments that they needed to be clutch, they came up with the big plays. The defense is a work in progress. I think the defense definitely had a game where it was a little bit tougher, a little bit of a wake-up call heading into a bigger game like against Michigan State. Yeah, kudos to the Nittany Lions. Kudos to Penn State. They played a great game. They proved a lot of their critics wrong. I think a lot of people maybe were thinking about Penn State coming into Columbus and thinking like, man, they just played the longest game in college football history against a terrible team. They didn't play well. They're going to get stomped by this red-hot Buckeyes offense, and they didn't. Great game. And it was really nice to have the two, mammoth Big Ten football games that we had this day, Michigan State and Ohio State, Penn State, turn out to be, classic, interesting, intriguing games. It was good that neither of them were blowouts. I think that helps the intrigue of the season go along, for sure. OSU is so overrated. I don't think they're overrated. I don't know about that. Spartans will be interesting. That is going to be such an interesting game. It's not about dominating. I agree. It's not always about dominating. It's about the ability to show that you can consistently capitalize on opportunities. When you project this performance to elite teams, it brings real concern. When you project this performance to elite teams, I don't know. I think there's positives and negatives with that. The fact that Ohio State's defense gave up a lot of yards, yes, it definitely is concerning if they have to face a team like, Georgia, Cincinnati, who knows, whoever they would face in a potential playoff, or looking to the future, their next toughest game against Michigan State, who has a Heisman candidate on their team. Their running back, I want to just make sure I get his first name right. I know his last name is Walker. I think it's Kenneth Walker, right? Pretty sure that's his name. I just want to Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker had the single biggest game for an individual in college football this season, running for 5 touchdowns against Michigan for the massive Spartans win. That is going to be a massive test for the Ohio State defensive line. And the D-line had some good plays. They weren't perfect, but they came up with the big plays. And I agree. But the positive I take from this performance, the fact that, against the elite teams, alleviating some of that concern is the fact that Ohio State was able to play against a good Penn State team that performed well and come up with the better, bigger plays. And I think that gives me confidence in that the Buckeyes can play Michigan State, Michigan, or a playoff team and be able to come up with the clutch plays to win a game. Ugly win. Fall in the rankings come out Tuesday night. Yeah, we'll get to the discussion on the rankings, Donovan. Just got to catch up on the chat here. Played one good team, Oregon, that's it. No, I think Penn State's a good team. I don't think you can say Ohio State's played one good team. I think you can say that Penn State is a good team. I'd say Penn State and Oregon are both good teams. I wouldn't say they're great teams. I think they're good teams. We got no push. We consistently couldn't get 1 yard. We were dominant on the line of scrimmage. That was the ultimate negative. Yeah, line of scrimmage battle was, I think Penn State certainly won that. The Nittany Lions came out. They were tough, physical. Were able to get to Trayveon Henderson, stop the running game. They were able to excel on offense and gain a lot of yards. But again, you need to capitalize on the moments. And Ohio State did that. CJ Stroud throwing a big touchdown. Trayvion Henderson with a 60-plus yard run to set up a 1-yard touchdown. Jerron Cage becoming a folk hero in Ohio State football history, for sure. Some worrying signs on the defense. Gave up 384 passing yards, and Penn State didn't even try to run the ball. Michigan State's way better running the ball. Yeah, that certainly is going to be an interesting concern. I am very curious. Ohio State running the Ohio State rush defense certainly needs to improve over these next 2 weeks against Nebraska and Purdue. But even then, like if they play well, if the rush defense plays well against Nebraska and Purdue, it's not really a clear-cut sign that they can stop someone like Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is the best running back in college football. And I don't know if Kenneth Walker can be stopped. He absolutely, shredded the Michigan defense today. He looked like he should win the Heisman Trophy, honestly. So, but definitely the defense showed like it's more of a work in progress. I'd say this was the second weakest defensive performance. I still think Oregon was the weakest for sure. All sides gross. I wouldn't classify the game as like gross. Yes, like that. I think that's another thing. There's got to be a point where it's like, okay, if Ohio State, are we only satisfied if Ohio State wins a game by 20 points at least? Can Ohio State win a game by 7, 8, 9, and you're satisfied, sort of thing? And that's not directed at one person. That's just an overall question to anybody who's about it in the chat. I would agree that Ohio State could have played better. Absolutely. I think the red zone offense could have been more efficient. I think the defense could have stopped the run more and the pass a lot more. Penn State, Dotson had a big game. Clifford was half injured and threw for nearly 400 yards. Absolutely. But I still think a game like this, you're never expected to win by 30 points. So if you can go out there and make the big plays, to me, I think that's good. Mark is not on this channel. Mark's on his own channel. I like how they stayed with the run even when it wasn't working, wore them down and worked when it. Yeah, no, it was a great test to see where we were. Still need to improve. Stroud was not the issue, though. No, Stroud was not Stroud was not the issue. I would say the weakest. I'd say the defense was probably the biggest issue. I think the defense showed that there's still more of a work in progress against a good team and against Michigan State. If Ohio State's offense is not as efficient, has the same level of efficiency against a team like Michigan State and the defense plays like that, I think that the Spartans would potentially come away with a win. Have we got the W? Clearly, people don't see Penn State as I do. They are always an issue for us. I felt the defense showed us they could handle a good offense. And I think, Randall, that's a good point. There are just some teams that just show up and play against Ohio State better. Penn State is one of those teams. They're always going to come in and play a really good game against Ohio State. They always are competitive against the Buckeyes. Those games are always good. I can't remember a really bad game. Why did East insist on playing zone and giving up all those yards? I don't know. Red zone would have put the game away earlier, but this happens in the big against a good rival team like Penn State. Right. This is the kind of game you'd expect against two competitive Big Ten teams. Michigan State is another perfect example. Good competitive game. Wolverines had a good lead, but Michigan State had a good comeback. It was a good competitive football game. Now you can say we have been battle tested some more. Can only make us strong. Exactly. Insurance, resource, trust. I would agree with you. It's a good battle test. Good way to sort of get an understanding of where Ohio State's at. A lot of things need to be worked on. I think defense specifically. And you definitely saw in moments where the running game could be ineffective against a defense that's able to beat the offensive line. So I think that's really important to see. And I think this is really good that Ohio State was able to win a test like this and play a game where they weren't necessarily perfect, but they were able to come away with the win. I think it's important to be able to win games like that. So when you go up against tougher teams like Michigan State, Michigan, maybe in the Big Ten championship against Wisconsin or Iowa, who knows, you're able to come away with wins even when you're not perfect and when you're not playing amazing football. So you have any concern about the lack of creativity from a play calling perspective? Like we ran inside every time in short yardage. Yeah, I think that's a little concerning. I would like to see some creativity from a play calling perspective. I agree with that. I would like to see a little more of that. Stroud needed that type of game to learn. Right. You need those type of games to discover who you are as a football team. You need those type of games to discover what your strengths and weaknesses are really. And maybe that's why you see teams like Notre Dame or Oklahoma go into a college football playoff. They're not really battle tested against really good teams. They go into a college football playoff and they get stomped by Alabama or Georgia or whoever else they're playing in the playoff. Defense is getting better. Yeah. Still not great, but they're getting better. I think this game was a little bit of a step backwards, like a sideways backwards step for the defense. We obviously can't go mano a mano and trust the O-line, so we need some creativity, and we didn't have push creativity. My level of concern there between 1 and 10, I'll go with like a 4. I think against Michigan State, certainly would like to see a little more offensive creativity. So, but second half, there was some good ground and pound going on. They were able to gain some yards there in the fourth quarter. And I think importantly, they were able to kill some clock with some drives. But I think, fourth quarter comes to mind, the fact that CJ Stroud missed Olave for that wide open touchdown, that was disappointing. You would expect better from Stroud on that play. I'm excited for the Michigan State. Oh, I'm super excited for that game. Michigan State, Ohio State's going to be amazing. That could be, honestly, if things get into this topsy-turvy college football-y kind of way, like 2007-esque, that Michigan State-Ohio State game could be a top 4 college football playoff game by the time we get there on November 20th. That would be great. Game showed us how close Penn State is to us, but no, you need games like this. Absolutely. You have to play games like this. You need to prove to yourself that you're a good football team and what you need to do against good football teams. So I think, I think a lot of people were saying, as the weeks have gone on, and since, the last couple of weeks, we've just been talking about blowouts, the Oregon loss was needed. You need to learn about yourself. There's no way, you have no definition of success without failure. Like, you can't succeed without failing, because then you literally don't know what the success is. So that loss to Oregon was good. I think this game is really good to kind of learn a little bit about the failures and a little bit about what needs to improve as they get to these bigger games. Right. Who cares about the score? I'm with you, Mark. Defensive line looks consistently better. That's good. Yeah. At least we didn't get scored on by the same player 2 or 3 times like we did against Oregon. True. Big improvements on that front. And the fact that they're able to hold their own at home. Curious for the chat. I want to know your guys' thoughts on this, because I wanted to ask this question. What did y'all think of the all-scarlet uniforms and the all-scarlet crowd? I thought it was sick. I love when teams do one color in the crowd. I just think that's so intimidating. 102,000 fans screaming and yelling while Penn State's on offense, all in this scarlet, blood red sort of thing. The all scarlet uniforms. I thought it looked amazing. I thought it was a sick look. I love when OSU does the all one color uniforms, like the all scarlet uniform. The all black uniform is sexy, I have to say. I'd be curious to see if they decided to go with an all gray uniform. Maybe that's the next one, but I don't know if they do that. Yeah, we'll be ready for MSU and TTUN after this game for sure. Then the playoffs. Yeah, they have to make the playoffs first. Uniforms and crowd were amazing. I know. Home field advantage looked amazing. Looked like it was a fun night at the Horseshoe this evening on the eve of Halloween. That's for sure. Students are just going to be going to their parties now, having a good time on Halloween. They're going to get very drunk. That's for sure. I like the all black. Yeah, the all black was awesome. I love those all black uniforms. Those things are freaking fire. Amazing. I love those jerseys like more than I love my soul. Honestly, they're so nice. Yeah, it was awesome to see the uniforms, awesome to see the crowd, the win at home. Really good night for the Buckeyes. They had an all gray. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was the all dark gray. What if they did like an all like lighter gray, or like Ohio State has like a scarlet or like a black helmet? That would be really cool. Certainly interesting concept for sure, but we're not here to talk only about uniforms. We're here to talk about freaking football. And the football was fun tonight. That's for sure. And I think it's good that we had an Ohio State game that was actually close, because it was more entertaining. It's, it's tough to talk about games where it's like, oh, Ohio State's up by 40 after the first quarter. Cool. Let me just wait for the next 3 quarters to end. This game, you're on the edge of your seat. You're waiting to see what's going to happen. It's cool to see that. I like watching competitive football games. It's fun. It's super fun. Speaking of competitive football games, the last 2 ranked teams of the day are playing. BYU's only up by 7 against Virginia, and then Fresno State's beating SDSU 17-0. I mean, there were a couple of upsets today that are definitely going to affect the first college football rankings on Tuesday. We don't have all these different alternate color jerseys. I know we don't have. I was just concepting. I like, the conception of it. It would be so cool. Imagine like an all scarlet OSU uniform with a black helmet with all the Buckeye stickers. Oh, that'd be sweet. Lost some fingernails tonight. Absolutely. You definitely, a lot of nerves. But it's all in relief. And now Ohio State has to go to Lincoln, Nebraska on Saturday and face the mighty Cornhuskers. We love a bit of Nebraska, who lost to Purdue today. Nebraska is not very good at football. Can we just throw this out there? How ridiculous is it that the Big Ten West is so much worse than the Big Ten East? All but one team in the Big Ten East has 4 wins. Well, maybe that's not a good barometer. What is it? 5 teams in the Big Ten East have winning records. 4 teams in the Big Ten West have winning records, but their conference records, you got 3s and 2s, 2s and 4s, 1s and 5s. Like, ugh. The Big Ten West is so bad compared to the Big Ten East. It's crazy. Do you think Master Teague was missed on short yardage today? Yeah, I would have liked to see a little more Master Teague maybe in those short yardage situations. But thing is, Trayveon Henderson has proven to be the guy now in the running game. He's proven to be sort of like the all-purpose back. Williams and Teague have taken kind of a backseat. I mean, Henderson had 28 carries. Garrett Wilson had 1, and Williams had 3. So in an important game like this, when Trayveon Henderson is getting 28 of the team's 32 carries, I think that kind of shows us that Ryan Day has full trust in Henderson and that he's basically the all-purpose back, and he's just going to be playing in red zone situations too. To be honest, the Buckeyes should be happy with as far as they've come. They are very young, I'll admit, but the energy was way off tonight. Interesting perspective. Okay. Do you think the line started to wear them down a little in the second half? Yeah, a little bit. I think Ohio State's energy was a little bit better in the second half. Penn State in the third quarter came out with, the 2 touchdowns. They had a good quarter, some open touchdowns for them. Defense wasn't able to cover Dotson all night, but I think the fourth quarter, the defense had a little more energy than the Penn State offense. I think Ohio State killed a lot of clock on those fourth quarter drives, got those key field goals. Important. Definitely important. Scott Frost must have naked pics of someone because I can't figure out for the life of me how he's still a coach. Yeah, he probably has some, maybe, yeah. That's an interesting accusation. Scott Frost just has some blackmail material. I mean, I would think Ohio State beats Nebraska by like 30 points. You would think, but who the hell knows? Lincoln's a tough place to play. As they came to play, they were not intimidated. If not for those silly turnovers, the Buckeyes would be on the losing side. Congrats for the win to the Bucs regardless. Yeah, Ohio State's defense had some clutch plays. That's probably the difference between a win and a loss. Great win, but the play calling needs work. Run it outside and throw more 10 to 15-yard routes, soften the D up. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, Henderson first half was timid. Also, CJ Stroud had some weird decision-making. Like, there was the play where he threw to Williams, and it was initially ruled a fumble, but then they reviewed it, and it was an incomplete pass. By the way, the officials had a pretty bad game. It was a weirdly officiated game for sure. But CJ Stroud in that situation, he's nearly about to run past the line of scrimmage, and he can easily just run the ball for a first down, but then he decides to throw it at the very last second to Williams, and that almost led to a fumble. They got lucky and it was an incomplete pass. Well, he was down when he caught it, so it wasn't a fumble. So, but those kinds of decision making, CJ Stroud, I think, needs to be more confident in the running game. But yeah, Trayvion Henderson, despite the fact that the guy had 150 some rushing yards, 152, it was probably one of his weakest games, but it was against a good defense and he was able to have one big run that helped him. Miss Master today, I think Teague would have got more traction leading day to play Teague more than he played Maya, plus he's more experienced. Yeah, I think it'd be nice to see Master Teague play more. He's kind of in like the gulag in a way, but I think, yeah, against teams like Michigan State and Michigan, maybe get Teague in there, get that experience in the red zone. But if Trayvion Henderson keeps having 150-yard games, then I just don't see Master Teague coming in for too many opportunities, honestly. Referees were terrible. Ejection, no holding call. Should have won by more. Why is CJ not keeping the ball and running? I saw quite a few free yards. Yeah, CJ's done that a lot this season. It's interesting to see an Ohio State quarterback in recent years who is more confident passing out of the pocket, and in those situations where he can easily run for first downs, just go out of bounds, he still decides to throw it. That's definitely, I think, the biggest area of improvement that I can find with CJ Stroud. It needs to be more confident running the ball and needs to be confident when there's open space where he should just run, to just run and not throw it. Because that situation, he's got to run the ball and just get a first down, run out of bounds, slide, whatever. Got to get those runs. Offensive play calling was disappointing in the red zone. Yeah, Williams maybe gets more touches too. I think Henderson has just been going off in the last few weeks, where today Brian Day's like, okay, you're just going to get all the carries today. So we'll see what the carry distribution will be against Nebraska and Purdue, and maybe that gives us a clue into what it would be like against Michigan State. Like your page, though, you're a cool dude. Thanks, Treasure the Torah. I'm glad you think I'm a cool dude. I appreciate that compliment. Thank you so much. So keep on with the questions and whatnot, any thoughts you guys might have, but I'm going to shift the main focus of the conversation to the rankings, because the college football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. Let's go. Michigan State looks way scarier. Oh my God. Michigan State looks amazing. The Spartans had a big win today. CJ Stroud, big issue is running. Absolutely. But the college football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. This will be big, because the one thing that comes to mind that the committee might do, and I think they will, just based off of the history of the way the college football playoff committee has been over the last 7 years or so, I got a sneaking feeling that they're going to put Michigan State ahead of OSU. I got a sneaking suspicion. I wouldn't agree with that, but I have a sneaking suspicion it might happen. With the change with the QB run on third down scrambles when play breaks down. Agreed. Yeah. Need to see more of that. Because if you look at the rest of the way that the week went in college football, Michigan loses. So Michigan's got one loss. Spartans are undefeated. Iowa was terrible today against Wisconsin. Iowa State lost. Oklahoma played probably their best game this season. Most dominant win. Caleb Williams went off and had 6 touchdown passes. And the Sooners actually won a game convincingly and didn't look like not great. Georgia defense continues to be incredible. Only gives up 7 points to Florida and wins 34-7. Auburn upset Ole Miss. Houston ended SMU's undefeated season on a kickoff return with 17 seconds left to win 44-37. Kentucky lost to Mississippi State. So the first top 4 will be muchos interestido, that's for sure. Henderson's carries might go down next game. He seemed banged up a little. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Not sure how the committee will be, but they never respect us. I have a feeling that Big Ten winner, if it's an East team, gets in. I think the Big Ten is on track to get one playoff team for sure. Whether it's Michigan State, Ohio State, Michigan, yeah, Big Ten East probably. Henderson's not the goal line back. Amazing player though. Amazing player, but yeah, I think Master Teague is the goal line back. It will all play out. Not worried about the rankings. Michigan State plays Ohio State, they win. Big Ten winners, if it's a one-loss team, is in. Yeah, I watched that Georgia defense. Them boys are better than advertised. Yeah, Georgia's defense is among the best defenses in like college football history. Like one thing that I'm curious about, and it obviously is not a relevant stat currently because Georgia didn't shut out Florida, but Georgia was on its way to shutting out Florida, and that would have given them 3 shutouts against SEC opposition this year. Has that ever happened before? Has any SEC team shut out 3 conference opponents in the same season? That would be crazy. But if I had to, so my personal top 4, if we're being personal here, and chime in with what you think. Georgia number 1. I think Cincy, I would say Ohio State. Ohio State not number 2. I'll give Cincy number 2 right now. Ohio State 3. I'd go Oklahoma 4. That's my personal top 4. Michigan State 5, Alabama 6. Just based off of the way that the results have been. Not thinking about reputation. What I think the committee is going to do, I think the committee will go Georgia 1, Oklahoma 2, Cincinnati 3, and I think they put Alabama at 4. So I think the AP top 25 right now is going to be the college football playoff top 4. And the first 2 out, I think they're going to put Michigan State at 5 and they're going to put OSU at 6. That's what I think the committee's going to do. One-loss Big Ten team is pretty much auto bid, and will OSU be the only team with the offensive firepower to beat Georgia? I don't know, man. I don't know. Georgia's defense is elite. I think OSU can win it all if they continue to mature and improve on both sides each week. Ryan's got Georgia, Cincy, Bama, Michigan State. That's a good top 4 too. But here's my thinking behind why I think that's going to be the top 4 from the committee. Georgia's the obvious number 1, no question about it. I think because Oklahoma is 9-0 and had a really good game against Texas Tech, and they're going to look back at the win against Texas, The committee likes the Sooners. I think they put Oklahoma at 2 because they're 9-0. And then I think they put Cincy at 3. And because they love the SEC, I think they put Alabama at 4. I think controversially, they're going to leave out a Big Ten team in the top 4 because they're going to put the 3 undefeated teams in there. And then they're not going to leave out Alabama because it's Alabama. So I honestly think that they're going to leave Michigan State and OSU out as the first 2 teams out in their first playoff rankings on Tuesday. I wouldn't be surprised. I know Texas Tech is not good, but Oklahoma played a good game. And Oklahoma is 9-0. The committee loves its undefeated teams. The committee loves its undefeated teams, and the committee loves its SEC, which is why that's my rankings, as in my prediction for the rankings on Tuesday. Treasurer's got Georgia, Bama, Oklahoma, Cincy. Okay, Georgia, Michigan State, Oklahoma, Bama. Interesting, none of you have OSU in the top 4. And to be fair, I wouldn't put OSU in the top 4. I mean, personally, I think Michigan State should be either 1 spot below or 1 spot above OSU. Michigan State today proved that they are right there in the hunt. They are in the competition. Who are they playing before the OSU game? They got Purdue and Maryland. Okay. And then they play OSU. And then they play Penn State to end the season. But I don't know. I just think the committee's going to disrespect the Big Ten teams to start. And that might not be the worst thing in the world because I believe in every single first release of a college football playoff rankings since the CFBP has started, the team that is number 3 never makes the playoff. I think that is the correct statistic. I could be wrong. OSU at 6. I think the committee's going to put OSU at 6. Honestly. Committee likes undefeated, which is why I believe they will rank the Spartans above OSU. And to be fair, Michigan State beat a rival team who's ranked higher, who is undefeated, and they're undefeated. They have every right and every reason to put the Spartans above Ohio State. Ohio State has a loss, and they had a shakier performance than Michigan State did against Michigan. That's up for debate. But I think the fact that Michigan State's undefeated and beat a better team this weekend, that I think pushes the Spartans above OSU in both the AP and in the playoff rankings. I'll crush OSU when they play a shitty team. The line is better, and I like the more blitzing we're doing. Conference champ is supposedly most important in strength of schedule. I promise, screw Cincy. Right. I think strength of schedule potentially could screw Cincy. Refs versus OSU. Refs are terrible, Sam. I agree. Michigan State benefited from playing a team who couldn't move the ball downfield. Mel Tucker has Michigan State playing with tough. Cincy just struggled against the freaking Green Wave. That's the thing, yeah. Shakier performance. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. It's up for debate. Whether OSU, I mean, which team had the less, which team wasn't as good today between Ohio State and Michigan State? I'm not sure. I think Michigan State probably is perceived as the team that had the better performance because they came back. An individual player had 5 touchdowns, so you could perceive Michigan State having a better game, but you need to rewatch the full game to really get a better sense. But again, Michigan State's undefeated, and they beat a better team this weekend. I think that's why they're going to put the Spartans above the Buckeyes. If we take strength of schedule into effect and the fact that Cincinnati really didn't play very well against Tulane, if they leave Cincy out of the top 4, then I think the top 4 would be Georgia, Oklahoma, Michigan State, Alabama, and then first 2 out would be OSU, Cincinnati. If they don't put Cincinnati in the top 4. They're not a top 4 team. I'm sorry. They do well against mediocre teams. Yeah, I don't think OSU is a top 4 team at this moment in time. If they beat as soon as, or if they beat Michigan State and they still have 1 loss, then I think OSU shows their top 4 team. Michigan lost by a touchdown. Michigan State was down by almost 3, scored at one point. Yeah, that's true. Michigan State was almost down by 3 scores for sure. So yeah, Michigan State did very well. Michigan State played well in the second half. Ohio State was leading most of the game. So yeah, it's up for interpretation. I was being down by almost 3 scores, a better performance. I that's why I said it's up for debate. We're talking through it, and yeah, up for debate for sure. Ohio State wasn't I don't know. I definitely don't know. But you bring a good point in there. Michigan State was down by 3 scores. Big second half, though, we're able to get the win against the Wolverines. So, but Regardless of the way either team played, I think Michigan State will be ranked above OSU. Undefeated makes a difference. That's why Oklahoma is still as high as they are. That's why Cincinnati is as high as they are. That's the thing. Better wrap up Walker. Walker is a bad boy. Who do you guys have as the Heisman favorite right now? Who do you guys think wins the Heisman at this point? You think he's the Heisman fave? I think I think Kenneth Walker is the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. What are his stats this season? Let me search this up. Kenneth Walker. See what ESPN. This point in the game, you have to dominate. Yeah, we have to see where the domination is going to come from. I don't think OSU is going to dominate Michigan State or Michigan. I'd be shocked if they won either of those games by more than 2 touchdowns, if we're being honest. So Kenneth Walker has 152 carries for 997 yards and 9 touchdowns this season. That's amazing. What's his game log look like? I mean, he had what's crazy? Yeah, 9 touchdowns? Do these guys know? Okay, ESPN doesn't know how to add and subtract because they're not counting the 5 touchdowns that he scored against Michigan. So if we actually count the 5 touchdowns he scored against Michigan, Kenneth Walker has 14 touchdowns this season. Not 9, because ESPN forgot to add 5 touchdowns to his stats. And they forgot to add the rushing yards from today. So he has over 1,000 rushing yards for 14 touchdowns this season, including a 94-yard TD against Rutgers. Damn, that is good. Michigan State doesn't win that game without Walker? No, because Walker was their whole offense. He scored every touchdown. One thing is for sure, Georgia is the most balanced team out and is smashing teams. I agree. Georgia's the best team in the country. They're so good. No one thinks Young from Bama is deserving for the Heisman. Yeah, give it to Kenneth Walker. I am a firm believer and a firm advocate in seeing more non-quarterbacks win the Heisman and the NFL MVP. I get the quarterback is the most important position in football. I get that. But we need to see more non-QBs win these awards. That's why I think personally for both college football and professional football, there needs to just be a best player of the season award, and you can't give it to a quarterback. Just have the best quarterback, which more often than not is usually the best player, and then just have an award that is just the best non-quarterback, defense or offense. Because the Heisman goes to a QB like every year. The NFL MVP always goes to a quarterback. I want to see more non-QBs win Heismans and MVPs, man. Georgia's nice. We better improve. And we still haven't seen Georgia's offense have to do very much. No, we haven't quite yet. Georgia's defense is one of the best we've ever seen. Must be said. Trayveon Henderson has 15 touchdowns. Wow. So Henderson and Kenneth Walker have combined for 29 touchdowns this year. My good golly. Next year? Yeah, Henderson for the Heisman next year. That'd be a good prop bet in 2022. Trayveon Henderson, Heisman favorite in 2022. His team by a mile. Henderson if we beat Walker. I don't know if Henderson's winning the Heisman if OSU beats Michigan State. I don't know about that. I mean, what are the odds makers saying? Heisman Trophy odds. Let's see. Heisman Trophy watch. What are the odds right now? So the statistical frontrunner for the Heisman is Matt Corral, the Ole Miss quarterback. I wouldn't agree with that personally. When was this written? This was written on the 25th. Okay, so this was written before the weekend. Bryce Young, no. Bryce Young's not winning the Heisman. Kenny Pickett, the Pitt QB. Caleb Williams, no. Buckeye Trio, Stroud, Henderson, Olave, Ritter. Yeah, I mean, looking at all these players that they're listing, yeah. The current Heisman odds still have Bryce Young as the favorite. Are you kidding me? That was before this weekend. Where are the live odds? Vegas Insider. Yeah, this was before. So before this weekend, Bryce Young was the Heisman favorite. Kenneth Walker was 6th. Kenneth Walker better be higher. Bryce Young should not win the Heisman. I am sorry. Yeah, maybe. True freshman too, right. Didn't get a watch game. How many yards did Henderson get? Henderson had 152 yards, Ted. 152 yards on 28 carries and a touchdown. For some reason, I don't think this is Henderson's year. No, not this year. For Henderson and Walker. Oh, and Pickett can sling it. Yeah, Pickett's really good. Yeah, I mean, Kenneth Walker's got over 1,000 yards and 14 touchdowns. And then Trayveon Henderson, I believe, has, yeah, we said 15 touchdowns. Let me look this up. Trayveon Henderson. Trayveon Henderson, where is his ESPN page? There it is. Trayveon Henderson has less rushing yards, considerably less rushing yards. He's got about 800 rushing yards. But obviously he does more in the receiving game. Yeah. Over 100, nearly 200 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns, 12 rushing touchdowns, and about 800 rushing yards. So way less yards, slightly more touchdowns, but mainly because of the receiving aspect of it. Oh, wow. The Braves won game 4. Let's go, Braves. Yeah, both can house you at any time. I know. Henderson and Walker will be a great battle. That'll be a great battle to watch when we get there. I am so excited for that Michigan State-Ohio State game, and I want both teams to win out so that game is as big as it can get. Because Wolverines blew it. The Wolverines blew it. Yeah, it puts the team on his back. Henderson versus Walker carries. Ah, damn, I closed the tabs. I think Walker has more carries. I'm pretty sure Kenneth Walker has more carries. I closed the tabs. I apologize. It's midnight. Happy Halloween, everybody. It's past midnight, but happy Halloween, everybody. But right now, Kenneth Walker should win the Heisman. No doubt in my mind. But that will be a phenomenal battle when we get there. All I want to see is Michigan State play OSU, and both teams are in like the top 4. And it'd be just a massive, amazing game of football that's super exciting. And then OSU beats the Spartans, goes to Ann Arbor, and kicks Michigan's behinds. No, Jim Harbaugh hasn't lost his job yet. I think that, this right now, he is having his best season as Michigan head coach. He just had one loss to a really good Michigan State team, really lost to one player. Kenneth Walker beat Michigan by himself, right? No, technically he didn't because he didn't kick the extra points. It was Michigan 33, Kenneth Walker 30 because he scored 5 touchdowns. Because he did. If Kenneth Walker kicked the extra points, then Kenneth Walker would have beaten Michigan on his own, but he didn't. So, but Michigan, they still got to play Penn State. Michigan-Penn State will be a fun game. That'll be interesting. And then OSU-Michigan, of course, on Thanksgiving weekend. Few games to blow. Right. Henderson gets shut down a lot earlier versus Walker. Right. Henderson shares carries. Okay. No, that's the thing. Henderson shares more carries. Walker gets all the workload for Michigan State. He'll get all the workload for the rest of the season. He had among the best individual performances in Michigan State Spartans history. He might go down as their best running back ever. Better than Le'Veon Bell. Another meaningless 9-3, 10-2, no Big Ten champ, no college football playoff. The Big Ten is not on a journey where they don't have a playoff team. Unless OSU, Michigan, and Michigan State absolutely collapse, like monumentally collapse, then yes, we won't have a Big Ten team. The one thing I am still nervous about for the playoff is if Georgia and Alabama play in the SEC championship, Bulldogs undefeated, Alabama with 1 loss, Bama beats Georgia, and then the committee's like, well, you know what? Let's just put both of them in. And then what if Oklahoma's undefeated? Well, you can go into. And then what if Cincinnati's undefeated? Well, you go into Cincinnati. Committee loves SEC. The committee loves undefeated teams. They do like conference winners too, for sure. But they like their undefeated teams. If they screw over Cincinnati, that would one thing be hilarious. It'd also be kind of a shame because I'd love to see a non-Power 5 team finally make the playoff. I know we're all Big Ten fans, but maybe the Big Ten's overrated. How good is the Big Ten really? Ted, I'd say the Big Ten is probably, I think it's the second best conference this year as a whole. Looking at the Big Ten, I would classify Michigan State, OSU, Michigan, Penn State as being like good football teams. Penn State's 5-3, but I'd say those 4 teams are the good football teams in the East. And then in the West, I'd say maybe Wisconsin is the good team. Minnesota's 6-2. Minnesota's flying under the radar right now. They're just winning games. Minnesota's won 4 straight. They have to play Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, and Wisconsin to end the season. But Minnesota might sneakily make the Big Ten championship. It might happen. Yeah, Michigan doesn't stand it. How would Michigan make the Big Ten championship even? They would need OSU. They would need to beat OSU, and they need Michigan State to lose 1 or 2 games, because I'm pretty sure the first tiebreaker would be head-to-head. And if Michigan beats OSU, and if Michigan State and Michigan both have 1 loss, then I think Michigan State wins the Big Ten East. I think the SEC is the best conference. I think the Big Ten is the second best. The other 3 Power 5 conferences, honestly, have not been that impressive this season. The Big 12 is meh. The ACC is not very good. Pitt and Wake Forest really have showed to be like the best teams. And then the Pac-12 is straight up not good. So screw TCU and OSU on, right? Harbaugh's still better than Rich Rod and Hoke, so it could be worse. I would love to see 2 Ohio schools. Besides 2 Ohio schools going, I think it'd be really cool to see a non-Power 5 team. Give me an outsider. Give me a chance at a Cinderella. Thank God Clemson won't be in the playoff. We are not getting the predictable playoff we've gotten for the last 5 years. No Clemson. We might still get Alabama and Georgia and Oklahoma, all 3 of them in the playoff, but no Clemson. Clemson's done. Thank God. They don't care about Alabama losing an unranked team, but cares about OSU losing. Right, that's the thing. And Salma, that's just the reality. There's always going to be an SEC bias. ESPN has an SEC bias. The College Football Playoff Committee has an SEC bias. Always. Everyone loves the SEC, except for the Big Ten. Except for Big Ten fans. Yeah, kudos to Penn State, I agree. What if unbeaten Memphis beats Cincinnati? Is Memphis undefeated? Where's Memphis? Memphis is 4-4. Just no, definitely not. Well, Cincinnati is about to play Houston. Or no, they're not. Cincy has Tulsa. Cincy-Tulsa could be an interesting game. To be fair, Tulsa played pretty well against OSU. OSU didn't play well in that game at all, but Tulsa's not a horrible team. Cincy-SMU will be a fun one. So, group of 5. Does Fickle go to USC or Penn State next year? Well, we're thinking Fickle. We're thinking Luke Fickle goes to one of those schools. USC. USC is going to be a big job. That, to me, is the biggest job opening in college football. Someone needs to go in and rebuild that program back to what Pete Carroll did with them and basically recruit kids to be like, yo, you want to live in Hollywood? You want to deal with forest fires? I don't think there's forest fires really in Los Angeles, but California has forest fires. But that's what Pete Carroll did back in the early 2000s. He appealed to these guys. And they're like, yo, you can live in Hollywood. You could be here hanging out with the celebs and be a great football team. But USC and all these other schools that are falling behind the 8 ball, like recruiting is turning into kind of a monopoly at this point with Alabama, OSU, Clemson, Georgia, all getting the best players because they all have the best facilities. And the coaches are great. And all those schools set up those players to be amazing professional football players. Alabama and OSU, I feel like, make up half of the NFL rosters. Notre Dame snag him. Dude, Mark, I don't know. I don't know how any team loses to Illinois. I went to Illinois. I covered the Illinois football team. I don't know how Illinois wins games. I don't get it. Illinois is terrible. But hey, ILLI, man. I'm glad we beat Penn State in 9 overtimes. That was a sick win. Nobody wants to live in LA anymore. Yeah, that's more of a off-topic conversation than anything. I definitely have some opinions about what's happening in the big cities and stuff like that, but I don't want to get into that now. I got a couple more minutes here before I need to hit the hay. If Oregon loses another game, would be good for us because people think Oregon deserves to be above OSU because they beat us. I don't know, Salma. If Oregon loses another game, then the Oregon loss looks worse. So that's one way to think about it. I think at this rate, if Oregon keeps losing, if Oregon loses more games and looks like a worse football team, then the loss looks worse. And then, like, if Michigan was a 1-loss team, it would, and Michigan and OSU met as one-loss teams, would be like, well, Michigan, had a better loss because they lost to Michigan State, who's still undefeated. I don't know if Fickle seems more of a Midwest guy. I agree. I think Fickle would go to a Midwest team, but yeah, maybe at USC just offers him a chunk of cash. It's like, dude, Luke, take the job. We'll give you a beautiful house here in SoCal. Take the job. You're going to be a Trojan. SMU is not unbeaten anymore. SMU lost to Houston on a kickoff return. The Cougars had a kickoff return with 17 seconds left to beat the Mustangs. So SMU is not undefeated anymore. They are 7-1. Houston is also 7-1. So that is not a scenario that exists anymore. Those are players being paid in transfers, which absolutely, Ted. That is a great point. The fact that NIL exists will completely change the game. And actually, you bring that point up, that might make USC a more enticing school to go to for prospective recruits because of the fact that they can start making money as professional athletes, and a lot of big businesses are potentially looking to sign on USC football players or UCLA football players. That's a really good point. So we'll see if that has an effect. But the other thing that's interesting about that is the fact that you have obviously a lot of players that are getting local sponsorship deals or getting opportunities to make money with local businesses and places within their communities. But there's a lot of online places that are getting athletes to get NIL deals, and they make money off name, image, and likeness. Most of the NIL deals that happen, the big ones, are only for athletes who have big social media followings. There's an LSU gymnast who has like 3 million followers on TikTok and like 2 million followers on Instagram. And she's got massive NIL deals with big online companies, media companies. So that's another thing to consider with that. If Oregon goes undefeated and OSU does, and Oregon doesn't get into the playoff, then there's no point in scheduling tough games. Well, Oregon's not going undefeated. Oregon lost to Stanford, so that's not happening. We'll see recruiting changes big time for sure. So unbeaten Cincinnati is good, but unbeaten SMU is. Yeah. No, I agree. That's the thing. What's the difference between SMU and Cincinnati? That's sort of an interesting thing. Be careful, Nebraska and Purdue. Don't count Michigan State. Yeah, that's true. I mean, hey, anything can happen. Anything can happen in college football. We can have some crazy upsets happen. Like Purdue could beat Michigan State next week, and then it's a completely different conversation. Hell, Nebraska could beat OSU. They won't beat OSU, but they could happen. It's possible. Yeah, yours got a $1.5 million contract and hasn't played a snap. Right. Making money. Undefeated the rest of the way. Yeah, we'll see about that. Oregon undefeated the rest of the way. Who's Oregon playing? Washington State, Utah, Oregon State. I don't think there's a shot in hell that Oregon makes the college football playoff. They need so many teams to lose out. They need so many teams to lose games, and the Pac-12 just is not good. Also, they lost to Stanford. Stanford's a 3-2 football team right now. They just lost to, they lost to Washington State last week. They lost to Arizona State. Now they're down 9-3 at halftime to a 3-4 Washington team, and that's who Oregon lost to. So makes the case to just schedule cupcakes if Oregon doesn't get in. Right. I think it's a shame that and say what? I agree with you there. Like, it's a shame that there's a potential more incentive to just schedule cupcake non-conference games, because I hate that about college football. That's one thing I really hate about college football. I hate seeing Alabama playing freaking Mercer, which, yes, I get the benefits for a school like Mercer to play Alabama in a college football game. It really helps the university make a ton of money. But from a competitive standpoint, it's just something you don't care about. Why is Alabama playing Mercer? Why is Alabama playing Southern Mississippi? Why is Alabama playing New Mexico State? Why? How about schedule a non-conference game against OSU or Notre Dame or Oklahoma, like an actual playoff preview? You'd make more money from the game for sure. Yes, it kind of kills the small fish, which is a bit of a shame. But you gotta do it like a perfect world. I think I would love to see more competitive non-conference. You're sure schedule a cupcake game or two, but you got 4 non-conference games. Schedule 2 good ones, schedule 2 not so good ones. because then it will also give us a better idea if these teams are really that good or not. You can't gauge how good Alabama is when they're playing freaking Mercer, you know? Right, they beat OSU at their place, absolutely. If Bama can lose to Texas A&M, Oregon can lose to Stanford. What's the point of playing tough out-of-conference teams? Yeah, I know, no. What's the point? Right now, Oregon has the best win in the nation. That is an interesting question, Ted. Who's got the best win in the nation? Oregon winning at OSU is the best win in the nation? Probably. You might be right, actually, thinking about it. Because A&M beat Alabama at home. Michigan State over Michigan's a pretty dang good win. I got to give them that. Iowa over Penn State was a good win at the time, but it's not looking like such an important win anymore. Yeah, Oregon does have the best win this season for sure. Cincinnati can get in, then if I'm a coach, why make my job harder? Yeah, I agree. But if Cincinnati doesn't get in, then there you go. Schedule tougher non-conferences. But Cincinnati scheduled some tough non-conference, right? Didn't they? Okay, well, they played Murray State, Miami of Ohio, Indiana, and okay, well, they played Notre Dame and Indiana. I would classify those as two not cupcake games. But yeah, I see what you're saying. But I don't think the committee is going to put Cincinnati. I think committee will put Cincinnati top 4 this weekend. But if Cincinnati doesn't have such a great game and Michigan State and OSU keep doing their thing, Cincinnati will not make the playoff. The committee just is so anti Group of 5. And again, I'm saying this to end the night because I need to go to sleep. It's 12:20. I think the committee on Tuesday will put Georgia 1, Oklahoma 2, Cincinnati 3, Alabama 4, and then the first 2 out are going to be Michigan State at 5, OSU at 6. I say they put Oregon at 7. I'm going to go with Ole Miss at 8. I think at 9, they're going to put Notre Dame, and then Michigan will be 10. That's my top 10 for the college football committee. That's what I think they're going to do. That's not my top 10. That's what I think the committee does. Right. Alabama schedules FCS, doesn't get penalties in the ranking, but Alabama makes up for it by playing in the SEC. Notre Dame is not that good. I don't think Notre Dame's that good. They beat North Carolina today 44-34. Good for them. But Georgia's the clear number 1. But I think that's going to be me for the evening. Another fun stream, guys. Good discussion. Really enjoyed it. We'll be back here next Saturday for what hopefully is not going to be a midnight postgame show. I would love if Ohio State played Nebraska at like noon. So then I can like do the show and then like eat lunch and then like not have to stay up till 12:45 in the evening. Yes, I'm young, but I like sleep. Sleep is fun. I enjoy it. It's good for me. It's healthy. And I don't want to keep having to watch OSU at 11 o'clock at night. Please make the Nebraska game a noon game. There is no reason why Ohio State, Nebraska should be a primetime showcase. Primetime showcase next week. What do you got? Tennessee and Kentucky. Let's go. Texas and Iowa State. Let's go. Oregon, Washington. Boom. Make freaking Georgia, Missouri. LSU, Alabama night. Yeah, 7:30. Do it. Auburn, Texas A&M. Just enough with the 7:30s. Noon kickoff in Lincoln. Let's go. I love the scarlet uniforms with the black ribbons. So I've been catching it. Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely be here next Saturday for the Nebraska game. If you guys want to follow me on the social channels, you can do that. I forgot to do my little AP Top 25 ticker. Good for me. My name is Ori Benatar. My Twitter is @obenatar512 if you want to follow me on Twitter. Mostly soccer stuff. I cover the professional soccer team in Columbus, the Columbus Crew. But yeah. You didn't like the uniforms? Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to see them wear the black ones again. But closing in on an hour streaming. We'll end it before the hour mark because I'm annoying like that. Have a happy Halloween, guys. Enjoy your Sunday football. If you're watching the baseball tomorrow, enjoy that. Go Braves. I hope they win the World Series. We'll catch you on Saturday for what hopefully will be a 3:30 post-game show when the Ohio State Buckeyes take on Nebraska. But for now, OSU beats Penn State. and Jerron Cage is my hero. Good night, everybody.